America doesn't need to conquer countries anymore. The United States has military bases almost everywhere. Germany, Japan, South Korea, Qatar, and Italy, Bahrain, more than 750 military sites across roughly 80 countries. No empire in human history has ever controlled this much military reach. O, B, R, A, C, C. And here's the terrifying part. Most people don't even notice it, because America doesn't rule the world the way ancient empires did. It doesn't usually invade countries and plant flags anymore. Instead, it built something smarter, a global military network so massive that the US can project power almost anywhere on Earth within hours. Aircraft carriers patrol entire oceans. Fighter jets sit ready on foreign soil. Thousands of troops are permanently stationed overseas. If a crisis happens almost anywhere on the planet, America is already there, and that system didn't happen by accident. It was built after World War II, expanded during the Cold War, and transformed into the largest military machine humanity has ever seen. But here's the real question. How did one country become powerful enough to place troops all across the globe, while almost no foreign military bases exist inside America itself? And is this global military network protecting the world or controlling it? This is how the US military rules the world. World War II changed everything. Before World War II, the United States wasn't the global military giant we know today. In fact, for much of its history, America tried to avoid getting deeply involved in overseas conflicts. The country focused more on internal expansion, industry, and economic growth. Even after World War I, many Americans wanted isolation from global politics. Then World War II changed everything. The war devastated Europe and Asia. Entire economies collapsed. Cities were reduced to rubble. Traditional world powers like Britain, France, Germany, and Japan were left weakened financially and militarily. But America came out stronger. Its mainland was untouched by bombing. Its factories exploded with production. Its economy became enormous. By the end of the war, the United States possessed unmatched industrial power, nuclear weapons, and one of the strongest militaries on Earth. Suddenly, America faced a new reality. If another global war happened, waiting for enemies to approach US territory would be too dangerous. So instead of staying isolated, America decided to place military power everywhere. That decision changed modern history forever. The base network that surrounded the planet. After World War II, the US began building permanent military bases across allied countries. Germany became a front line against the Soviet Union. Japan became America's strategic anchor in Asia. South Korea became critical after the Korean War. Over time, the network expanded into the Middle East, Europe, the Pacific, and beyond. Today, the United States maintains hundreds of overseas military facilities, with the estimates ranging from around 128 major bases to more than 750 total military sites, depending on how smaller installations are counted. No other country even comes close. China has only a handful of overseas military bases. Russia has far fewer. Most nations barely maintain any global military presence at all, but America built an entire web around the planet, and every base serves a purpose. Some bases launch fighter jets, some store weapons, some monitor satellites and communications, some exist purely for the logistics and refueling. Together, they create something incredibly powerful. Global reach. America doesn't need to move troops across oceans after a crisis begins. Its military is already positioned near the crisis before it even happens. That changes everything. The oceans belong to the US Navy. But military bases alone are not enough. The real backbone of American global power is the US Navy, because controlling oceans means controlling trade. Around 90% of global trade moves through the sea. Oil, electronics, food, cars, resources, everything depends on shipping routes staying open. And the US Navy protects many of those routes. American aircraft carriers are basically floating military cities. Some carry over 60 aircraft and thousands of personnel. Entire countries have smaller air forces than a single US carrier group. These carrier strike groups patrol key areas like the Pacific Ocean, the Persian Gulf, the Mediterranean Sea. This gives America the ability to respond almost instantly to threats, wars, or geopolitical tensions. And because global economies depend heavily on safe shipping routes, American naval dominance gives the US enormous influence over the world economy itself. That's why many analysts say the US military doesn't just defend America, it protects the global system America helped create. The Cold War created a military empire. The Cold War accelerated everything. After World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union became locked in a massive global rivalry. Both countries competed for influence, allies, technology, and military dominance. And America became obsessed with one goal: contain communism everywhere. That fear justified huge military expansion. New alliances formed. NATO became one of the most powerful military alliances in history. American troops remained stationed across Europe permanently. Bases expanded across Asia to counter China and North Korea. Military spending exploded. The Cold War turned the US military into a machine designed for global operations, not local defense, global control. By the 1980s, America had military influence in nearly every strategic region on Earth. And even after the Soviet Union collapsed, the military system stayed, because once a global network exists, it becomes incredibly hard to shrink. Why countries allow US bases? Here's the question many people ask: why would other countries allow American troops inside their borders? The answer is complicated. For some countries, US bases provide protection. Japan and South Korea face threats from North Korea and growing Chinese military power. European NATO members rely heavily on American military support. Smaller countries often view the US presence as a deterrent against potential enemies. In simple terms, if you attack us, you risk attacking America too. That's powerful protection. But there's another side. Hosting US bases can also create political tension. Some local communities protest against foreign troops, noise pollution, crime incidents, or environmental damage. Critics argue that American military presence gives Washington enormous influence over the domestic politics of allied nations. Supporters call it security, critics call it an empire, and honestly, both perspectives exist at the same time. America doesn't just win with weapons. One reason the US military became so dominant is that it connects with nearly every other part of American power: technology, finance, media, intelligence, diplomacy. Everything overlaps. The US dollar dominates global trade. American tech companies shape the internet. Hollywood shapes culture. Intelligence agencies monitor global communications. Military alliances strengthen political influence. Together, these systems reinforce each other. That's why American power feels different from older empires. Ancient empires controlled territory directly. Modern American influence often works through systems: trade systems, military systems, financial systems, alliance systems. Countries don't necessarily get conquered, they become connected. And once global economies depend on those systems, American influence becomes incredibly difficult to escape. The world is starting to push back. But now, for the first time in decades, the system is being challenged seriously. China is rapidly expanding militarily and economically. Russia continues projecting military power aggressively. Countries are beginning to question whether America should remain the world's dominant military force forever. Even some American allies are becoming more independent. At the same time, maintaining a global military empire is extremely expensive. Overseas bases alone cost tens of billions of dollars annually. And after wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, many Americans started asking difficult questions. Does global military dominance actually create stability? Or does it create endless conflict? That debate is growing louder every year. The Invisible Empire. The Roman Empire used roads, the British Empire used ships. The American Empire uses military bases, aircraft carriers, satellites, alliances, and global logistics. And unlike ancient empires, this one operates almost invisibly. Most people will never see the system directly, but it's everywhere. In the oceans carry global trade, in the skies monitored by American satellites, in the military bases spread across the planet. The US military became so powerful because it mastered something no empire before it ever fully achieved: the ability to project force globally at almost any moment. And whether people see that system as protection or domination, one thing is undeniable: the modern world was built around American military power.